And it's a trust thing. If you trust me, you trust my judgment, you think you're being treated fairly, then there's not a problem.
Now here's one for you ladies. Do women get ripped off more than men?
Woman, get some therapy.
More than 45,000 people in the Antelope Valley commute every day, and they commute far, 60 to 100 miles each day, to their jobs, either in LA or perhaps Bakersfield. Needless to say, when you're driving this much, maintaining your automobile is essential, not only for performance, but for safety. At Cliff Service Center, we know the stress of the commute can give you a tendency to ignore some of your scheduled maintenance. Well, in view of that, Cliff has some ideas ahead that might make your commute a little safer and your car a lot healthier.
Today we're at Cliff Service Center in Lancaster. Of all the complaints that car service centers take, what is one of the most common complaints?
That I've had my car all over town for a specific problem, be what it may. Could be something simple, something major. They've had it to a bunch of different shops, and each one of those shops has tried their best to fix it. The customer has spent a lot of money trying to repair the vehicle, and he still has the same problem. I don't want to come across as that I'm better than anybody else, but here we try to give it our best shot, and the other part of it is letting like myself, if you brought the car to me, bring all your material with you, all the work orders that you've had at the other shops, so that I can see what they've done, we can chit-chat about it a little bit, and then maybe I can see something that they haven't looked at, and I can attack the program from a different aspect, so that we achieve the end result is you've repaired your vehicle. A lot of times I've been involved in those kind of situations, and everybody, to coin the expression, has been in the right church but the wrong pew. So, you know, at that point I can see everything they've done, and maybe I can come up with a different idea on how to attack the problem.
Since I've taken my car all over town, how would I know what a fair market price is?
That's a hard question to answer. A lot of it's going to depend on the problem. Intermittent problems are the worst ones in the world to find. They're difficult for me to find in any other shop. Unless you get lucky and the car does it while it's here, it's in my possession, it's hooked up to my equipment, then we can find those kind of problems. A fair price, that's difficult. Basically, it's just time and my knowledge. Maybe I've experienced it someplace else, so I can cut through the chase and get right to the repair. Or maybe it's something I've never experienced, and I'm going to have to sit there and spend some time diagnosing it, massaging it, trying this, trying that. I think a lot of it, as far as fairness to price is concerned, is, let's say I fixed the problem, I repaired it, it's gone away. Now I sit back and I look at it and say, okay, if I'd experienced this before, if my test equipment had located the problem faster, one of the books I have has answered my question. You kind of weigh, it's a balancing act. I mean, I might have 15 hours tied up in this, but this job, when you find out what the problem is, it's something usually stupid. So, but I can't charge 15 hours for something that's stupid. So you kind of look at it and you think, well, okay, fine. Maybe 4 hours or whatever, okay? But here I don't believe in charging them, you know, like from second one to the last period of the deal, you know? And that you just float with it. And what's fair? What's fair for me so that my shop makes some money at it, and also what's fair for the consumer. So he's, you know, hopefully going to remain a customer and come back and tell his friends and neighbors.
There are two ways to deal with auto mechanic stress. Number one,
You know, this happens just all too often.
Number two, Cliff Service Center.
They're your GM VW specialist. We take the mystery out of car servicing and put the trust in.
It's really very simple. You always know the price, and we guarantee our work.
Woman, get some therapy.
Let's talk about you, Cliff. They don't use the word mechanic anymore, do they?
No, now we like to be referred to as technicians. We spend a lot of time and energy in continuing education to learn about the new state-of-the-art systems that the manufacturers are coming out with, ABS, anti-lock brake systems, airbags, I mean the list is long. Computer systems, all the things now, fuel injection, the different type styles. It takes a lot. It's not like it was 30 years ago when I started.
When you first started, you were a mechanic.
When I first started back in 1968, you know, almost 30 years ago now, we were mechanics, but we had pointed ignition system, carbureted cars. Things back then were stupid simple. And I've evolved through since that time on all of the state-of-the-art technology. In the early 70s, they came out with disc brakes. In the mid-70s, they came out with high-energy ignition systems. In the 80s, they came out with all the computer systems, you know, the little check engine light or service engine swing lights on the dash. And I've had to stay up with that technology through all of this time, you know, through tools and education and I've taken classes down at the GM Tech Center, which is for General Motors products down in Burbank, through the GM Tech Center and all of the stuff from Bosch, which is Volkswagen pieces, suppliers. They send me a lot of their technical information. So I'm staying abreast of what's going on in my field. And if you don't, you know, you're going to get run over and end up working on lawnmowers someday, and I really don't intend that to happen.
Where in that period did you decide to be a specialist in the VWs and GMs?
Well, in '68, the first store I worked for, or automotive repair shop, was a VW Corvair store, for those of us that remember the mighty Corvair. I enjoyed working on the Volkswagen then. Worked in that particular shop for a couple of years. And then I went around and, you know, I worked for a couple of the dealers down below, you know, GM dealers. I worked on Hondas and Fords and Nissans, Toyotas, but I like Volkswagen. I like to work on a product that I believe in, and Volkswagen and General Motors are the two I like best. Nothing wrong with any of the others, of course.
Now here's one for you ladies. Do women get ripped off more than men?
I really don't think so. In my shop, my particular feelings are that car repair, probably 80% of it's done by women. I mean, your husband or whatever, or boyfriend, you're going to work, whatever, you got a few minutes, can you run to the car into the shop, get the oil changed, get this noise looked at, whatever. I have never felt that way. I try to treat everybody equally. I'm sure that it does happen, and I won't deny that it can't, but I don't think it happens here. And if anybody ever thought they were getting ripped off here, I'd surely want to at least tell me about it.
What kind of payment plans do you offer?
We take personal checks, Discover, Visa, American Express, and MasterCard. Thank you. And of course, we do accept cash. I don't think anything in the industry that I'm aware of is set up for like a regular monthly installment type program on a repair to a vehicle.
Would one really know when their part is defective?
I'm a firm believer in what I call show and tell, circles and arrows. Done it for a lot of people. You don't see what I do, you don't usually understand what I do, but I want you to be comfortable with what I do. That's where the trust for both of us starts to come into play, especially if you're a new customer. The price of automotive repair today is astronomical. I mean, and everybody knows it. I can spend $500 on a customer's car without too much effort. And that's a lot of money. It is for me, and I'm sure it is for everybody else. So when you're looking at this $200 part that you can put in the palm of your hand, you'd like to have a reason why it's bad. Sometimes I can show you because, see right here, and other times it's because of one of the books, a test procedure we did tells me that the part is bad. I can't really show it to you, And it's a trust thing. If you trust me, you trust my judgment, you think you're being treated fairly, then there's not a problem.
I'm a commuter. I commute 80 miles one way, so 160 miles round trip every day. What is something you would tell me for maintenance as a commuter?
As a commuter, you're driving 160 miles a day. I urge 3,000-mile oil changes, even though the manufacturers tell you can go 6 or better on some oils, okay? I don't believe in that. If you're changing your oil every 3,000 miles, which is basically every 3.5 weeks if you sit there and you count the days and the miles, you're rolling a lot of miles on the car, but in the same token, someone is seeing it, a trained professional, they're keeping track of the things, that can bite you. The broken belt, the hose, staying on top of your brakes, your tire wear, your suspension, things like that are being looked at all the time by a professional. That's about the only thing I can really recommend as a commuter. You're going to roll more miles on your car, annually than, let's say, someone like myself who lives and works up here. So there's going to be maintenance things that need to be kept track of, let's say, more on a faster basis than even the manufacturer would want to see. You're going to put 20,000 miles on that car in no time at all, okay? And the next thing you know, you've got 60 or you've got 100,000 miles on the car. And when the car starts to get, 60,000-ish miles on it, then it's going to start requiring some preventative maintenance things done to it. Timing belts, other recommended factory things that should be addressed and attended to. And those things are going to happen very quick for someone who commutes.
I got to go change my oil.
There's one guy at Cliff Service Center that you just can't get by, because this is one element of quality control that no one has. That's DJ. Everything must come across his desk, and now.
Can you give me an example of what I'm to expect when I bring my car into Cliff Service Center, the procedure?
Depends what you bring the car in for. If you're bringing it in for your oil change, then of course we're going to change your oil in your filter, lubricate the front end. Any other little things that need lubrication we're going to do. We're also checking your belts and your hoses. We're looking at your brakes, suspension, anything that we can physically look at without taking something apart. I mean, we're not going to rip your engine apart to look at it and tell you what we think of it. If the front brakes look like they're getting close, we'll take a tire off, we'll inspect them so we can get a better feel for what's going on. If the front ones are real close, then we probably might pull the back one off and look at the rear brake just to see what condition there are, so I can give you a report, and also it goes into my records. So when you come back the next time, we can pull you up, look at it, and say, okay, well, last time there was so many % of the brake lining left, we need to stay on top of it. What I try to sell here is automotive repair, needless to say, but preventative maintenance. We all know we're going to need brakes, but what we try to do is keep the cost of the brake job to a minimum. If it's not looked at, it goes into the iron, when you hear that little when you're stopping, you spend a lot of extra money needlessly. And I try to defer those expenses. I'd rather see you take the money, go out to dinner, or if we have some other repair, spend the money that way than wasting the money because someone wasn't doing their job.
There are two ways to deal with auto mechanic stress. Number one,
this happens just all too often.
Number two, Cliff Service Center.
They're your GM VW specialist. We take the mystery out of car servicing and put the trust in.
It's really very simple. You always know the price, and we guarantee our work.
Woman, get some therapy.
What would you say is the difference in Cliff Service Center and the car dealer?
I think that with here, you're dealing with the old mom and pop type of business, the old country store type of campaign. You get to know your customers. I'm here every day. Unless I'm running to the bank or chasing the customer, picking up a part or something like that. And as the owner and I'm being here, I get to know my customers, I get to know their kids, okay? It's more of a personal thing than it is just another car, okay? This way, because I know the family maybe a little bit or whatever, or we're getting to know each other, I spend a little added time, I think, in building the relationship, looking at the car, especially for a first time through the door. I don't know you, I don't know your car, and I want to be able to give you a good give you a report on your car regardless of what it is. I mean, if it needs a lot of repair, or if it just needs a little of this, a little of that, or just whatever you brought it in for. So you don't get lost in the shuffle of the big company syndrome.
Maintaining your car is certainly a factor in the commute. Now, put together 30 years experience and years of training, and you'll have more than a competent technician. Living in the Antelope Valley and a numerous customer base of so many satisfied customers, Cliff has become a friend with many. And of course, he offers senior discounts and quality work at a competitive price. That's Cliff Service Center.
You're a commuter. So you jump in your car, you take it from your residence and go to your park and ride place. At that point, you get in the van and drive off to work, you go. Car sits there for 8, 10, 12 hours every day. Now you know that I should get it in for the oil change, or maybe it's making a weird noise or doing something that's abnormal, and it should get in, okay? Rather than wrecking one of your Saturday mornings because you got to jump in the car and take it someplace and get it looked at. There again, where the trust factor comes in, a lot of times I have keys to my customers' cars. I go get them. I bring them in. I check them out. I call them, so forth, because I have to tell you what's going on, what we found. And this way you're accomplishing a couple of things. You tell me when you're going to be there. I can run up, pick you up at your park and ride, bring you back down here. We can go over whatever we have to. And then you're on your way home. And in the meantime, something was being accomplished while the car sat there, and as we call it in the trade, sunned all day long.
Now that's service at Cliff Service Center. They'll pick up my car, work on it while I'm at work, and then pick me up at the end of the day. I haven't lost a day, I haven't lost a Saturday.
There are two ways to deal with auto mechanic stress. Number one,
You know, this happens just all too often.
Number two, Cliff Service Center.
They're your GM VW specialist. We take the mystery out of car servicing and put the trust in.
It's really very simple. You always know the price, and we guarantee our work.
Woman, get some therapy.
So are there that many Volkswagens around still?
Oh yeah, there's tons and tons of them. I mean, you'd be surprised at people that bring in their 62, 63 bugs, you know, they've had forever. Some of my people have had their cars, you know, God, 14, 15, 20 plus years, drove it off the showroom floor, got, you know, 500 million miles on some of these suckers, and they love them. You know, then there's the people that drive the Rabbits and the Scirocco's and the Gulfs, and, you know, they made numerous Jettas, so forth, the Banigans, the camper mobiles, the Westphalias and stuff like that. Oh, there's still a bunches of Volkswagens out on the road today. And a lot of them drive them every day up and over that hill. Okay, now is when we start the typical oil change. Remove the drain plug. While you're doing that, we're kind of standing around underneath the car looking to see what's going on. See, we have a few oil leaks that we need to look at later on. While the oil is coming out, we can be looking at the front end parts. There's not much to do then. Wipe off the fittings so we don't put anything up there that we wouldn't want up there. Now we're still waiting for the oil to drain. We'll lubricate the front end. It's not supposed to pop off like that, though. lubricating up the drag link and the idler arm on this side of the car. Not much to look at, just see that the grease comes out and you know it's in there. Do the outer tie rod end here. And the lower ball joint. Okay. Put this back. Now we just go through here and wipe them off real quick. Try to keep them clean, getting too much road junk on them. Okay. Now we continue with our visual inspection. On this particular car, we can look at the belt. It appears to be in good shape. We can check the bottom radiator hose, see how it looks. Looks fine. So forth. Step over onto this side of the car and see how the brakes feel. Just kind of reach in here and feel it. Okay, this one feels a little bit close. We may want to take a wheel off this car and look at the front brakes. I know we've done rear brakes on it here a while ago, so we don't have to check the back ones. So far, everything other than the front brakes looks pretty fair. We do have some oil leaks. Appears that it's coming down from the valve covers. So we'll check that when we look on the top side of the motor and isolate that leak so we can advise the customer about it. Before we forget it, we'll put the drain plug back in. Tighten it up, be sure, because you wouldn't want it to A, fall out or B, leak if we can avoid it. So forth. Okay. Take a quick stroll to the back of the car and look back there and see if anything's wrong. Yeah, everything back here looks to be in pretty fair shape. So forth. Okay, now we'll change the oil filter. And we just reach up here and unscrew it. There's the old one. Wipe off the new one here. And get a clean rag. Wipe that off. Take a little bit of the old oil, put it on the new gasket so that the rubber doesn't stick to the housing. Reach up in there and screw it back on till it seats. And then you give it about one more turn just to be sure you got a good seal there. Wipe off any oil you spilled on the exhaust manifold, exhaust pipe. Okay, that just about takes care of the bottom side of the car. We'll move the barrel out now. And we'll lower the car down. We'll check the tire pressure. Let the car down about midway so we can check it. Look at the tire tread as it's coming down. Be sure you got even wear. There's no scalloping edges, which would indicate a bad strut or shock. You like to see about 32 pounds in a tire. This one's just a little bit low. Put the valve stem back on. It's a good idea to have those on there. It keeps the dirt and debris out of the valve stem so you don't have a potential flat tire, or if you needed to put some air in it, you'd be able to get it in it. That one's fine. Now, if you remember when we were doing the underside check, we determined that the brakes were a little close on this, so we wanted to get in and inspect it. So we'll remove the hubcap, hopefully without dropping it. Find the locked one. There's the locking one. Make sure the wheel's going to stay there so it doesn't fall off and hit me in the foot. Yeah, you can see here he's close. We need to advise him when he comes to pick up his car that he's going to need front brakes here in the not too distant future. When we're looking at this one, we can see that this has riveted brake shoes in it, so that the rivets protrude down into the pad a little bit further than the metal part right there. So that means that our spacing is getting rather close before the rivets go into the rotor. So that's why we want to really bring it to his attention and make it imperative that he does something with this. So at this point, everything else looks good. We'll put her back together now. Now we'll put the lug nuts back on here. Mags are a little bit of a pain, so we start them and you kind of lift the wheel up, and bring it back onto the mag. That way you don't struggle with it, you don't strip a bolt. Be sure everything has its washers on it where you need it. Do that again. There we go. What we'll do now is we got the wheel and all the lug nuts are started. We'll take the impact wrench and just buzz them down lightly so that on the final step of this is to torque the lug nut onto the rotor. We kind of do this in a staggered manner. Pull down the wheel evenly. Now we'll put the torque wrench on it. Run it up here to about 80 pounds. Reinstall the cap. Try to wipe our fingerprints and stuff off the guy's mag. Okay. So far we know we have an oil leak we need to advise him about. We need to put some front brakes on this car. Now we'll let it down and put some oil in it and check all the things on the top side. Okay, what we'll do while we're looking underneath here is we'll check this guy's air filter, just see how they look. Okay, we'll check his power steering fluid now. Okay, check his windshield wiper fluid, that's good shape. We'll check his master cylinder for brake fluid. Okay, get all the oil in the car, we'll take the bucket out. And the last thing we do is check the oil, be sure it's full. And that's what we do for an oil change.